BlurCon, we're coming. You heard it right, folks. The Wrestling Realm will be a part of our very first convention as we will be at the 2018 BlurCon right in Crystal City, Virginia at the end of July. Go to our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for more details.
No, maybe that's for somebody else. We're just going to keep you right where you're at right now.
It doesn't matter what you think.
The Wrestling Realm presents Break It Down with Brian H.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You heard the music brought to you by my cousin Mike, also known as Hypno Beats. Make sure you follow him on Instagram. I'm excited. What a show I have lined up for you today. But we're not starting how we usually do. We usually start Break It Down. It's the 14th episode. And for 13 of those episodes, we've always started with, the big dog in town, the WWE. Why? Because, I've told y'all time and time again, I'm a WWE guy, not ashamed of it. I will not be shamed for loving the company that made me love professional wrestling. However, there was a match this week. We're going to go right to our top rope. I put it like that.
Going up to the top rope.
It's time for this week's Top Rope segment of the week.
Ladies and gentlemen, the top rope this week is a match that people are saying is perhaps the greatest match in professional wrestling history. That is Okada versus Omega 4. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you have been living under a rock, then you may not know. So allow me to break this news to you. There is a new IWGP Heavyweight Champion of the World, and his name is Kenny Omega. Omega finally getting it done after 3 times coming up short when he faced Okada. Okada had a reign that lasted over 700 days. So Brock Lesnar just passed CM Punk for the longest title reign in modern day WWE history. But I saw a lot of memes and a lot of things that said that's cute because Okada held the belt for over 700 days. So what a match. I've said this time and time again. I'm not ready to say that was the greatest match I've ever saw because quite frankly, I cannot make that statement about any match. But it was good. That's without a shadow of a doubt. Okada, Omega, these two, 64 minutes they went at it. 64 minutes in a 2 out of 3 falls. And I just love the way the commentary was broke it down. Omega needed to get that first pinfall to set the tone, especially after he came up short against Okada 3 times. Instead, he didn't, so it changed his whole game plan. And like I said, I'm not going to be one to say, oh, yeah, I watch all this New Japan because I don't, but I do appreciate great wrestling. And that's one of the things, the storytelling in this match. And then you could see as it got towards the end, when they were still trying to hit each other with clotheslines and drop kicks, they just couldn't do it. Sometimes, they were tired. And Omega would go ahead and win the match. And afterwards, he cut a promo and he basically said, he earned it. He worked hard for it, and then he had his press conference even said, now he has to live up to this because Okada was such a great champion, and he knows he don't even think it's over. Okada's going to, obviously he probably want a rematch, but he also said that, he's like, look, I don't think I'm better than him. Many look at Okada, he is the only, he's the first wrestler that PWI put as the number 1 guy. So that just goes to show you, and that's out of the top 500. Usually that spot is reserved for a WWE guy, or I believe AJ Styles may have had it as a TNA guy, and then the WCW guy. So that's always been reserved for the American audience, but that just goes to show you how great Okada has been. They saying there should be a 10-star match. It was great. Am I ready to say it was better than Savage Steamboat or Shawn Michaels Undertaker or Brett and Austin? I I'm not ready to say that. I know I'll leave that up to everybody listening, and tweet me, let me know your thoughts. But it was a very good match, and I'm gonna be one as I wish people would do in this Michael Jordan versus LeBron James debate. I'm going to be one to say I'm just going to enjoy the matches for what they were. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm not going to compare. I'm just going to enjoy great wrestling. That's how I am. When I get something different when I watch New Japan versus when I watch the WWE, and I'm fine with that. I have no problem getting something different. So, but we're gonna stay right there. This first segment is gonna be about New Japan. We got new IWGP Tag Team Champions, the Young Bucks, and now the rumor innuendo is saying that the WWE is ready to offer the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega massive contracts. Most people say they don't want to see Omega there. The New Japan diehards will tell you they don't want to see Omega in a WWE ring. They don't want to see the Young Bucks because they feel like they'll get watered down. I say, well, has AJ Styles been watered down? If these guys are that great and they'll get over, then there's nothing people going to be able to do about it. Clearly, when you go to a WWE show, you see people with Super Kick Club shirts on, Bullet Club shirts, the Kenny Omega, the cleaner. You see those shirts. So that lets you know these guys, I think that even if the WWE tried to water them down, they didn't. And I was talking to my buddies from View from the Top Rope. I sent in this question. When Triple H takes over, because we know it's going to happen, unless Shane McMahon decides to take over. When Triple H takes over, we'll see a whole different product. Now, I'm not saying Vince is out of touch. He's a visionary. But there will be a time where he said, you know what, I'm ready to hang this up. Maybe it's coming soon, especially with him acquiring the XFL back. So if that does happen, will we get guys like Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks coming over and being able to do some of the stuff that they did? Obviously, I don't think you'll see a lot of spots, and you won't see 60-minute matches because these guys will probably be working house shows as well, so they're going to be wrestling a lot more. But the money will be there to be made. So, also, we had Chris Jericho win the IWGP Intercontinental Championship. A huge surprise. A lot of people were shocked. Jericho, he says his phone is ringing from people wanting him to come to their indie shows, He said, look, he has no interest in that. He has no interest in even wrestling for New Japan in the United States. That's also Chris Jericho, folks. How much can you believe him? That's what I want to know. How much can you believe Chris Jericho? So, but a great weekend for New Japan Wrestling, New Japan Dominion. It was great. The thing is, too, that we saw was they have a new CEO, and I'm interested to see where he is going to take the company. I was talking to my brother, the real Dwayne Allen, shout out. He said that he believed that, this guy would bring, kind of cater more to the American audience. We do know that coming up at the G1 special, we have Cody Rhodes taking on Kenny Omega for the IWGP World Championship. That's going to be interesting, especially when Cody came out there and started to come out there in the celebration to turn his back. Omega said he just wants the Bullet Club back together. He wants everybody to be one big happy family. Now, I've been very vocal. I was not impressed by their match at Supercard of Honor. Maybe it was because I was just got finished watching TakeOver. Nonetheless, was not impressed, folks. So that's where I am with that. I'm going to go ahead and take my first break, and then we'll get into some WWE talk.
What's up, people? This is the host of Variety Bites and the Shark Attack, the one and only Sean Williams, and you are listening to Break It Down, brought to you by the Wrestling Realm with my good friend, Mr. Wrestling Intelligence Personified, Brian H. Waters. Main event, educate him.
And I am back. That was from the Shark. As you heard, he has not one, but two podcasts. So, Brock Lesnar, as I mentioned earlier at the top of the show, Brock Lesnar is now the record holder for the modern day, we'll say the big belt. As in, he's the universal champion. He's the longest reigning universal champion, and nobody's held it longer than 435 days. CM Punk, he passed CM Punk this past week at 434. And let's stay right there. CM Punk. Here was a guy who sat atop of the stage about 7 years ago now and proceeded to drop what they call the pipe bomb. And he says he hates that word. And we're almost coming up on the anniversary of it. It's right before Money in the Bank 2011. CM Punk dropped the pipe bomb, and he said he was frustrated on his way out. Now, if you wasn't a fan of his or you wasn't talking about him as much, you did after that. Why? Because you never seen a wrestler do that. You never seen somebody break the fourth wall. You never heard them mention John Laurinaitis' name up until that point. And it was one of those moments that as a wrestling fan, you sat there, you didn't know if that was supposed to happen. You was like, wait, you're not supposed to mention his name. But now he's turned his back on the world of professional wrestling. And people say, well, how do you know he turned his back? Because he's going to be at All In. One of the things he did say was that, and we saw this revealed through a series of tweets from Corey Graves, a guy who was considered him a close friend. He said that he held his son, that he told anybody who was still working for the WWE, a place that they used to put food on their table to feed their families. Anybody who's still working there, he was done with him. He didn't want to talk to him. Now you got a guy like Corey Graves who has a young family, and they get this from somebody he's supposed to call his best friend. You could see through those tweets it was painful. But Punk fought this week, and this is the reason why he's been in the news a lot. One, he won a lawsuit against former, I guess he's a former WWE doctor or a WWE doctor. Either way, he won that lawsuit. The doctor was suing him and Colt Cabana for it was $1, I think, for every download or every listen to that podcast where Punk went on a rant about how the doctor didn't take care of him. However, what we saw from CM Punk was that, he said, no, he's not wrestling again. He's done. But a lot of people looked at this. He turned his back on the fans. This is the sport that made CM Punk. Because if he wasn't, the name Phillip Brooks does not draw money. Now, Punk lost at UFC. Pardon me, I don't remember the numbers. I watched the fight, and he was taking on a guy named Mike Jackson, and he lost. And after he lost, Dana White said, yeah, it's probably a wrap for his career. Translates that for people who's not listening. He can't make any more money from me because the first fight was like, okay. But then you lose twice. You barely had any offense in this fight. Yeah, you can't make any more money from me. You're just a joke. But like I said, he still used the name CM Punk, but he's not drawing any money. I mean, the name Phillip Brooks doesn't draw any money. So, I do not have any sympathy for Phillip Brooks because if Phillip Brooks was such a big star, then he would be able to use the name Phillip Brooks to draw and not CM Punk. Reminds you of somebody, somebody he wanted to keep calling Dwayne. Now, let's be real. The name Dwayne Johnson may not have carried much weight in the movie business, but it sure carried more weight than the name Phillip Brooks would on a UFC card, and you can take that one to the bank. So, that's enough about him. Let's get into the WWE title picture. This Sunday, is it Shinsuke Nakamura's time? He will go up against AJ Styles. Is this match 4 between them two on a pay-per-view? We saw Okada Omega 4. Let's see, we had WrestleMania, Greatest Royal Rumble, Backlash. Obviously, they wrestled on SmackDown. So, yeah. But we're going to call this Nakamura Styles 4. I do think this will be his crowning moment. I will have a special prediction show coming up later with a special guest. But I do think this will be it. This will be the night Nakamura gets the title. Last man standing match. He'll find a way to win and walk out. Now, it'll be interesting. We're thinking about these cash-ins. Now, personally, I want to see somebody from Raw get the – no, I don't, because I want to see Miz get the briefcase. But I kind of want to see somebody from Raw. I just want the belt to get off Lesnar. But it would be interesting if he won and was cashed in. I really hope this match closed the show, but I got a feeling it's going to be Nia Jax and Ronda Rousey. But, Shinsuke Nakamura's made it very clear he's coming for AJ Styles. Now, let's move into the Money in the Bank. Just talk about a couple points here. Braun Strowman, past Monday on Raw, destroyed everything. It was very interesting how they began the segment where you had the women and the men from Raw they begin the show talking about what they plan to do and who was going to win and this, that, and the other. And then you saw the little flirting between Alexa Bliss and Braun Strowman. And then after everybody started bickering, Braun Strowman reminded everybody, somebody's going to get these hands, which is so crazy. I love that line. I would get the shirt. Shout out to my brother Cody Stewart of the MC Report, also a great graphic designer. Would get the shirt, but I don't know if I could rock that shirt to work. Yeah, everybody be like, get these hands. What does that mean? I like to wear my wrestling shirts to work on casual Fridays. So, but Braun Strowman destroyed everybody. I thought that was very interesting. It goes to show you he's, can have everything. He can destroy anybody at a moment's notice. But what I do hope is that he does not win the Money in the Bank. However, will he have a big ladder like the Big Show? He shouldn't because he didn't on Raw. So there's that. So the match that I'm really looking forward to will be the SmackDown Money in the Bank. Main reason is because like I said, my picks are in there. Either The Miz or Samoa Joe. You'll find out who will be my money pick. But then we also still don't know who the New Day is sending to the match. People are saying Big E. Last week I said I changed my mind. I went with Big E. I thought it was going to be Xavier Woods. But I do think now, you know what? It may be Big E. So there's that. Let me take a quick break, and then we'll talk about the women of the WWE.
What's up, guys? This is the boys from Talkamania, and you're listening to Break It Down with Brian H., brought to you by The Wrestling Realm.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you check out Talkamania. I got one of the cool shirts, so make sure you get one of the cool shirts. You can check out my Twitter and Instagram. You'll see the shirt. That's a great podcast. Really enjoy how they break things down. All right, so let's talk about the women. This is the match that I believe will main event the show. That is Nia Jax versus Ronda Rousey. Why? It's Ronda Rousey's first pay-per-view match in a one-on-one situation. It's for the women's title. And if there's a time for the women's title main event, we're going to put Money in the Bank as the big five. I know that, in my opinion, Money in the Bank takes the place of King of the Ring. This is the time to do it. I want to see Shinsuke Nakamura and AJ Styles close the show. But Ronda Rousey and Nia Jax are on the poster. And I think this is the time to do it. Now, what I did like on Monday Night Raw, we finally saw them touch each other. Now, I know I said that I wanted to see them wait to touch each other at the show, but it made sense. And we got to get a preview. Wasn't too much when she went for the armbar, and Nia got to show off her strength, but she didn't have the endurance, and Ronda was able to bring her down to the point where she tapped out. Now, one thing we know, that if you're the person that goes down on the show, you're usually the person that goes up on the pay-per-view. So will Ronda lose her first one-on-one match? Will there be interference? Natalya's been talking about this injury. However, there's been a photo revealed where Natalya had ice on the wrong leg. Maybe that was done by design, and maybe it's not so much the internet picking up on something, and maybe it's a thing where Natalya is maybe they just faking the wrong injury. We've seen that happen before, where they said, okay, this is the working arm, this is the one that's injured. But come on, folks, this is 2018. WWE, they got to know which leg they're injuring. So I think that could be a work that's going to show up later, and Natalya may win the Money in the Bank briefcase and cash in on Ronda, or she could cash in on Nia Jax, stealing Ronda's opportunity. So we got on SmackDown, speaking of tapping out, we saw a 10-women tag match where we saw Carmella tap out to Asuka. And if Asuka gets that Asuka lock on, we're going to get a new SmackDown Live Women's Champion. I don't think SmackDown gets the briefcase only because they had it last year. It's when it was exclusive, and I know we could say the same thing about Raw, but we've never seen Raw women with the briefcase. Now, I'll be the first one to tell you, SmackDown Live's women are far ahead of the game than Raw's women. SmackDown Live's women, they would all look, whether they were participating in the Money in the Bank match or not, they all looked invested. And that's what I loved about the 10-women tag match, because it all started, it was going to be a 8-women tag where you had the Iconics come out there, and they found a way to stay relevant and say, look, hey, we might not be in a match, but, we can still take any of y'all. And then we also had, not only did we have the Iconics, but we had Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose, former Absolution, join them. So that's the thing. I'm invested in everyone. And I know a lot of people are saying, even on View from the Top Rope, I was listening to them, a lot of people are saying Lana does not belong, but she's over. And it will be Lana Day if she can pull off the upset and win that briefcase. I just don't think she will do it. So, like I said, more of my predictions to come on a special episode, but I'm excited. Money in the Bank should be a good one. So, buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take another break.
Hey everyone, this is Jer the Jobber from View from the Top Rope. You're listening to Break It Down with Brian H., brought to you by the Wrestling Realm. Keep it locked. Now back to you, Brian.
And we are back. So, hopefully you make sure you check out View from the Top Rope. As I said before, they are StarCast bound. So, let's get into the Tapped Out.
Here's our Tapped Out segment of the week.
I hate to pick on this guy. I hate to pick on this feud. But my Tapped Out has got to be Bobby Lashley in that obstacle course. WTF. Sorry, folks. But really, what is that? Why? That's all I want to know. Why are they doing it? That makes absolutely no sense. And we all know it's going to be a squash match. Come on now. Why? It's by far the worst thing that's happened in wrestling. It could have been the Constable. Just the fact that he's on the show. But, he got a haircut. That's Baron Corbin. And that was like, okay, yeah, whatever. But that was even better. His bad promos and bad talking was better than Bobby Lashley running an obstacle course. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, really, how long did it take them to set this up? And this is where, Raw, that 3 hours, man, it's becoming a killer. So I ain't enjoy it at all. But let's get into some of the news in professional wrestling. Saw an interview with Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair. Guess what? Hogan revealed that the talks are great, and we could be getting closer to the return of Hulkamaniac. I just hope that somehow, some way, I'm in the arena, because anybody knows me knows I'm a huge Hulkamania fan, and I'm not ashamed of it. So Hogan, hopefully we'll see him back. Only time will tell. Now, speaking of Hogan, 83 weeks this past week. If you listen to it, Eric Bischoff, Conrad Thompson were talking about the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes brother. And, the Dream, you heard, a couple clips from him in the beginning, in the opening song. He's one of my favorites. I don't have the same Dusty Rhodes memories that other people have, because obviously I was young when he was in his heyday. But I remember one of the things that always stick out to me is when him and Dustin teamed up, and he pleaded, he said, son, I don't want you to be begging anybody else to be a partner. I want you to be your partner. And I remember sitting in my grandmother's kitchen watching that. And this is one of those memories, I have many memories in my grandmother's kitchen, my grandmother's house, period. But it's one of those memories that I just remember watching. And it was a dynamic father-son moment. And listening to Bischoff's podcast, you could tell he was talking about how much Dusty loved his kids. And you could see it translate on screen right there. Obviously, that was a script, but you could just tell. And shout out to Eric Bischoff, because he did something that nobody does, and that was silence Conrad Thompson. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I should say left him speechless when he brought on the immortal Hulk Hogan as a special guest. Nobody saw that coming. And he was like, oh wow, and I just like, wow, man, as a fellow Hulkamaniac like Conrad, you could appreciate somebody being able to get that moment. And I'm pretty sure he's probably met him before. I know he said Hogan blocked him, but I believe they have met. But being able to see that, hear it, I was on the treadmill in the gym and I popped like, whoa, so I thought that was great. So you know what? We got NXT coming up. And speaking of Dusty Rhodes, Dusty was that was his baby. NXT, we often hear it associated with Triple H, but NXT was definitely Dusty Rhodes' baby. We have TakeOver coming up this weekend, this Saturday. Which now just reminded me I'm not going to be able to watch it. I have plans, but I'll tell you this: I'm not that interested. And guess what? That's probably a good thing. I'm not that invested in this. I see a couple of things. But a couple of times, the last time they was in Chicago and that happened, I enjoyed it. So Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa is obviously the match that I'm looking forward to the most. And it's partnered with Velveteen Dream and Ricochet because we know between those two matches, they're going to tear down the house. I don't see much. I know my buddy Glenn Thomas is, bigger on Lars Sullivan than I know a lot of us are, but I'm just not really feeling that match. Nonetheless, but the show should be good. And expect nothing less from TakeOver. I'm pretty sure they was probably watching New Japan Dominion, so they're gonna go out there and try to outdo them. So can't wait for that. Now, let's get ready for Wrestling for the Culture.
It's time for Wrestling for the Culture, where we take a look inside to see what the wrestlers of color have been doing this week.
Wrestling for the Culture brought to you by Amazon.com, where you can go on thebrianhwaters.com, click the Amazon link, make all your purchases, help the show out a little bit. This week, the New Day will take on Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, also known as the Elite. Depends when you're listening. If you're listening to this when it dropped on Wednesday, then it hasn't happened yet. If you're listening on Thursday, then it might happen. But they'll take on the Young Bucks in a game of Street Fighter at E3. For those who do not know, E3 is the conference where new video games are revealed. Isaiah Frazier won the Crab Wrestling Heavyweight Championship this weekend at Nova Pro. We got Leo Rush going to 205 Live. I actually should have mentioned that last week, but guess what? I didn't, so I'm letting you know now. Shane Strickland, busy weekend this past weekend. He retained his PCW Ultra Light Heavyweight Championship, and he defeated MVP at Defy Wrestling. Speaking of Defy Wrestling, Desmond Xavier defeated Scorpio Sky. Moving on, Ashton King advances in the United Kingdom tournament. The tournament decides the number one contender for Pete Dunne's WWE UK Championship. At Nova Pro, Mia Yim defeated Faye Jackson. Mia Yim, that was it was one of the matches they, really sold the Commonwealth Cup on. That would be where that would go on, where Mia would go on to beat Faye Jackson. They had the epic showdown. Mia went on, unfortunately she lost in the next round. And at Southern Underground Pros Streets of Hate, AJ Gray defeated Wes Barkley, who was substituted for the injured Kurt Stallion. After the match, Gray and Stallion had to be separated. So that's for Wrestling for the Culture this week. You know what it's time for. It's time for your question from the realm. And now, for this week's questions from the realm. This week, questions come from our regulars, starting off with the real Emmett B. This question: who would be best winning, Nia Jax or Ronda Rousey? You know what? I think Nia Jax would be best winning because Ronda does not have to come out and dominate everybody. She's still going to be money regardless. If she's going to be a part of the roster, I don't want to see Ronda Rousey. I know she's the most dangerous woman in the world. I'm not saying she got a job, but she don't have to just come out and hit everybody with the arm bar and beat them 1, 2, 3. Why can't she take some losses? Or why can't she win by disqualification or lose by disqualification? Or why can't she get hit with a chair with a blind ref 1, 2, 3? It's something, She don't have to lose clean, but she should be losing some of these matches. Coming from Jaleesa, question this week: the best manager ever. It was best manager in WWE. Who is or was the best manager? Oh, the best manager, without a shadow of a doubt, Bobby the Brain Heenan. I mean, he was just great. He could talk for all his wrestlers. He could get anybody over. And I think that, Bobby's number one. Paul Heyman may be number two in my eyes. And maybe Jim Cornette's number three. And coming up, the Shark. The Shark's going to bring it. So this week he has, who do you think will be the next North American champion after Adam Cole? I thought about this, and I'm thinking maybe it's Pete Dunne. I think there's something right there. Pete Dunne probably dropped the UK title, and he would become the North American champion. But I also think that if it's not him, it would be Ricochet. He would be, after a feud with the Velveteen Dream, or perhaps during the feud, Ricochet win the title, and then the two feud again for the belt when Adam Cole moves up for the NXT championship. And his second question, do I see anybody from NXT being called up this year, or should they leave it as it is? Leave it as it is. There's no reason to call anybody up. I just don't see why they would, personally. Shayna Baszler would probably be called up next year. That's the first person that comes to mind, but I don't see any reason why they should call anybody up. And his last question, do you see AJ Styles ever leaving SmackDown? No. SmackDown Live is the house that AJ Styles built. When SmackDown goes to Fox, we are going to see why SmackDown is a billion-dollar brand. We know why, I should say. The world is going to see why SmackDown is a billion-dollar brand. And so, therefore, AJ Styles should never leave SmackDown Live. Just the way SmackDown belonged to The Rock, then I would say it belonged to Edge. Now, well, you know what? It belonged to Cena for a little bit, but then, they kind of wanted to get him to Raw. But then it definitely belonged to Edge. Now I think it belongs to AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan. And I personally think there's a heel turn in there for him, and we'll get a feud between him and Daniel Bryan. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this week. Make sure you are following us at the Wrestling Realm. Make sure you are tuned in each and every week. Make sure you have subscribed. And if you're on YouTube, go ahead, hit the subscribe button. Check out all the videos on the playlist right there in front of your screen. Until the next time, folks, I'm Brian H. Waters. So long, everybody.